first panelist is Anand, my friend. He is a mechanical engineer with 2 decades of experience in the field of MEP. One of the key members of the organization, being in charge of the Mumbai operations of PDA, Pankaj, Dharkar and Associates. They are well versed with all the big projects happening in Mumbai, townships, housing, hospitals. Ho gaya. Second is another one of my friends, Rupesh. We go back from SKM days. So Rupesh heads a company known as Electromechanical Engineers, Electromech consultants with 27 years of experience. Mr. Aniruddh Bapat, please come sir. He is now VP MEP Raheja Group. I have known Mr. Bapat for last I think 2 decades from L&T Realty days. And Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya. Oh yes, sorry. So Sanjay sir is he is heading MEP services at Lodha. Again, we have been interacting quite a lot for last about decade or so. And thank you everyone for making it. And we will jump on to the panel. So this is not about any service or anything. We are going to do a very broad-based panel discussion. Starting from HVAC to electrical. Hello. So we have got 2 developers over here and we have got 2 consultants over here. So we are going to get the perspective from the developer's point of view. And also we are going to look at it from a consultant point of view of how we want to design the building, how we want to make the buildings more efficient. And then we are going to ask a common question to all the panelists about net zero sustainability, how we are going to make our building more sustainable. From the developers, we want to understand how they will maintain the buildings. Like Ashish, when he was talking, he was always talking about the designing mein to hum sab kar lete hain. But then how are they going to manage, how are they going to maintain the buildings? So we are going to ask the 2 developers over here who are thick into the MEP part of it, of how they will be maintaining these buildings once the buildings is handed over from the project side. So starting with you Anand, when we start doing these residential buildings, the first big question comes that facade has to be spick and span. We do not want anything anywhere. The architects want nothing to be seen, and then we always end up where to locate our air conditioning units, whether we want to locate it in the shaft. I am averse to locating units in the plumbing shaft, but we end up doing that in most of the projects. We end up doing it locating in the shafts where a person cannot go maintain it. There is a small 400 by 900 window which is there above the WC from where you have to jump. But then that's how we end up doing it. There are now people talking about putting the machines in the chalk, which is enclosed from all the sides. We do not do the stack effect analysis and all. So what is your thought on location of these outdoor units from the AC perspective of residential?
See, I think we don't have a choice. Outdoor machines have to be outdoor, and when we see from a building planning point of view, probably the only space we get in a built environment is a shaft where you kind of aesthetically, I would say, conceal the unit, but at the same time they need to be outdoor. So I think we don't have a choice other than a shaft. Probably we need to look at how good we can create in terms of entry, access and maintainability. In terms of putting ODUs, we say ODUs, so they are outdoor unit. So there is no way they can be indoor in a choke. Not for only the stack effect or ODU functioning or a performance, but I think it's a big fire hazard. Because once you put the ODU in this choke, particularly in Mumbai, this choke is actually a ventilation shaft ventilating the toilets or a kitchen. So if you put the ODU, something which is hazardous in nature, you have a lot of electrical circuits going on, it create a furthermore issue, or it could be a challenge for in terms of fire or things like that.
Correct. We end up doing it in the shaft, but I don't know whether that is the good practice or not. We end up doing it. So what is your suggestion with respect to where we should locate it, if not the shaft?
I think another probably a location could be a dry balcony, something where you can hang the machine below the soffit and still it becomes accessible. But particularly when you see in terms of high-rise building, I think the small unitary one-to-one units are difficult to manage in terms of height and stack effect and temperature and things like that. So we are going to look at more of solution like VRF or something. So you are going to minimize your outdoor machine.
Yeah.
So once you minimize your outdoor machine, then probably you have an opportunity to get a better space, you know. Another thing, I mean, people obviously they know and they should kind of keep it in mind is you should try and take at least 2 shafts for a VRF OD in a high-rise environment. Dedicated, so that you can stagger the units, you can minimize the stack effect, and you don't really need to have a cross-ventilated shaft.
Makes sense. Thank you. Rupesh, taking from what Sheetal said, her one presentation was bus duct versus cable, which I completely agree with you. We should go in for bus duct as much as possible. I completely agree with you that the cost of bus duct becomes cheaper than the cables if the number of apartments per floor is more, the number of floor is more. I'm in complete agreement with that. Also when we work down south, somehow this is not a quote in Mumbai, Maharashtra or anywhere, but when we do go and work in Tamil Nadu says more than 3-4 floors you have to have a bus duct, irrespective of whatever is your current. Karnataka says more than 750 amperes you have to use a bus duct. What is your views on this? How we can implement this bus duct more and more into our projects in, let's say, because we are in Mumbai, let's talk about Mumbai.
See, because Mumbai we are having a lot of high-rise buildings and current rating if you see starting from 700, 800 ampere into some building is we have designed up to even 2500 ampere, 3000. But see now clusters, small developers now starting doing small flats, so number of floors per floor flat you see is around 12, 14, 16. Some redevelopment building we see even up to 24 buildings also. So shaft sizes are become too huge, and even you take multiple shafts also, and then meter room is staggered and different to 3 locations. But then again every meter room carries around 200, 300 cables. It's always safety point of view, it is very difficult. So I think bus duct is definitely a good option. I think at the national level or at the maybe at the authority levels, I think we should take up this. And we can insist MERC to make compulsion at least maybe after 630 ampere or 750 ampere or maybe number of flats. If there is a more than 100 flats in the building, they should make bus duct compulsory. Advantages definitely are there. We do the long run because of low resistance. Then you can see the short circuit levels plus you can say the current carrying capacities as very less. Very importantly, losses are minimum. So multiple advantages we can look after. And at Sheetal says given cost, if you see the like 10-12 apartment into say 40 floors for 400 apartments, if you see the costing versus aluminum cable, particular aluminum wires in a conduit or maybe aluminum armored cable put isolator, that is what many people have started doing. Even though the cost of the bus duct is compared to almost 30% less that even we have accepted at many of the projects. That is what I think we should go ahead for.
We had done a case study for a particular client, and what our conclusion was that if your number of apartments is 4 per floor,
correct,
and 19 apartments, bus duct and wire cables become equal. So 19 apartments. This is just one study. I mean, it all depends on project to project. But you feel the number of floors also should be a criteria?
Number of floors vertically, yes, and the number of flats as well. So what you said, 4 apartments into 19 floors.
Is the number of floors. If you go more than 3 floors or 4 floors or 6 floors, irrespective of number of flats, you should.
We can. If there is a 24 apartments on a floor, like a redevelopment and building is just a 7-story, I would still recommend it to go with bus duct. Maybe ampere rating can be restricted to 200 or 300 ampere, depending on the road. But I think there has to be some bylaws need to come at the national level, authority level. There is certain percentage, certain ampere rating we should insist for bus duct. I agree.
Coming to Bapat sir, how will you create awareness on the fire training which needs to be done after the project is being given to the society? What we normally see is in my society also it's the same, although I do all this stuff, but there are no fire drills. I don't know whether my fire company is working. I really don't know whether there is a handheld extinguisher on all the floors. I don't know when it was charged last. So, while we do all the project, design it properly, how as a developer you make sure that the whatever is being given to the society, it is being maintained properly, and also like the fire drill has to happen. But I don't see it's happening. So, your thoughts on it?
I would suggest the municipality should incentivize the property tax. Somewhere it has to link with some incentive, then only these things can happen.
So at your developer level, would you want to do some sort of training programs and all, or do you do that after the society is handed over to the residents? Some sort of a fire training or how to use the water, because normally if it's a big society, then you have all these property managers, facility managers who are going to manage the society. But is there a kind of a training which you would want to give or you give to all these big projects of yours?
See, in terms of commercial building, whenever we hand over commercial buildings, we always carry on these, and we also happen to maintain also. So we carry on these drills, periodic drills.
Mostly with residential, sir. Commercial is always maintained properly.
In residential, if you see at the time of handing over, we give that awareness and training once before handing over. Once the society is the custodian of that inventory, then it becomes the society's responsibility. So from developer's point of view also, it's not happening beyond a point, it is handed over. That's it. Somewhere we'll have to link it with or incentivize the property tax, something like green building. They are now giving some incentives. If your building has got gold rating, platinum rating, they provide you some incentive. Something like that we'll have to figure out. Yeah.
So coming to you, Sanjay sir, RERA is in place now. So what I understand is RERA, you developers have to maintain the building or maintain the facility for 10 years. Am I correct? In RERA? 5 years. Okay, 5 years. So 5 years you have to maintain the building. Is it happening? I mean, you must be doing almost maximum number of high rises in the city, Lodha World 1, World Towers, One Alta Mount Road, and all those high rises and most of them are operational under your guidance and under your supervision. So once it is handed over, as per RERA guidelines, you are supposed to manage it for 5 years. So how do you do that?
So for a integrated complex like park or World Towers, normally when we start handing over the first building to the last building, normally takes that time. Whereas in individual building, what we inculcate is that till now that clause is not fully implemented in the individual building. Bigger building, yes. So it is more sort of a preparing the SOPs, right, in a multi-residential tower and implementing these SOPs until the time we move on to the next handover of the building. The first is being handed for the society to maintain it, because minimum 2 to 5 years, right? Minimum 2. We are doing it, and the residents are part of it. Because now, when they buy X product at a certain price, they demand that quality to be there. So, in our company, there is a separate. It's not a regular facility management; it's a hospitality department which is there, under which the facility management comes in and takes on the customer need, the interaction with the customer. It's more sort of a more professional way of dealing with them and inculcating that effectiveness that this is for you. Because the point which you are telling is correct. Once it is handed over to society, they try to cut corners. But if you inculcate that advantage of maintaining it professionally, and over the past, I think 6-7 years, we are seeing a lot of societies are being deploying, after we come out, are deploying professional agencies who are well trained, not maybe the likes of JLL or CBRE everywhere, but there are some second level who are quite good, break away from these different parties, and they are maintaining it very well.
And you do the fire drills as well?
So it's a very important thing, the fire drill. So like I'll talk about big complexes like MEP and even in Thane also. Under the hospitality department there is a ERT team, emergency rescue team. What we are doing, we are deploying a fire officer who is a trained and professionally qualified fire engineer in terms of life safety equipment, in terms of emergency rescue, and together with that we are having the lift rescue team. With that we are having fire marshal. So tower wise we are having allocation. Every 3 months we are doing a mandatory fire drill. And that mandatory fire drill is declared. It doesn't go undeclared, but definitely we are doing it. It's a registration which is happening. It's a full sort of attendance, whoever are available. If they are not coming out of the house, it is being made to them to come out of the house. And a full mock-up is done with emergency announcement. It's not that people first go and bang the door. They do emergency evacuation message as it comes in the actual fire scenario, and we are doing it. And same SOPs are being transferred to the society, and we have seen few big buildings we have been handed over in the past 2-3 years that have been operating on society level. They are also.
Anand, coming back to you, I mean, Mr. Devendra Singh talked about the building which is 1 kilometer high in Saudi Arabia. I haven't studied the design part of it. If you have, some time back we were doing this degree at this all towers in Marine Lines, and there we had put up a substation at 37th floor. I still remember we were having substation at we had 2 substations, 3 substations. One was at ground, one was at 37th floor, and one was about 60 floors. But we don't do that now. What are your views on it? I don't know whether this 1 kilometer building has intermediate. I think they should be having intermediate substation because to transfer power from 0 to 1000 meters, I think what is the voltage drop and all what we are talking about, the reactance loss and everything. So what is your view on having substations at multiple levels?
So I think it's a function of distribution, right? So it all depends on your load. I mean, what load you are going to cater from that service floor. So depending upon height of the building, the energy requirement of the building. So for example, even if you have a commercial building like 300 meter tall commercial building, I think we would need a substation somewhere, you know. But if it is, say for example, 300 meter residential building where I am not catering anything on a common area load, I mean more than a lobby light or something like that, we may not need a substation. So depending upon the application, depending upon the load which is there at the higher level, elevated level, I think that's the best way to go. But when we go to a 1 kilometer or something, then the other picture comes in a design parameter like your voltage drop. How do you want to carry that? You know, at 433, how much power you want to carry, with what kind of losses. So then there is no way to take. Only way is to take the ST and put the substation there.
But we don't have our NDC does not allow us to do something.
I think some of the cases like that are also we had approached, and probably the utility company said that it is possible we can, as a very special case, provide that.
Birju bhai, the biggest thing which you are telling NBC doesn't. NBC is the only code which specifies that you can have a substation to distribute the power within 6% losses and reduce the fire case scenario for the multiple. While we were doing World War, we have substation at a intermediate level, and we took a 1 year full course of approval with government official. We tried to search. We have been working in Dubai, right? So we thought that Dubai definitely has a code which specifies that you can have a substation in the middle. Didn't have. BS didn't have. NEC didn't have. NFP didn't have. Even Far East. Only Singapore, somewhere it specifies. Hong Kong code and NBC only specifies that you need to have a mid-level substation. It's a guideline basically. They are giving you suggestions. These are the two codes. I don't know, after that somebody might have come up with this code amendment, but none of the codes are only NBC and Hong Kong.
NBC is ground and fast.
No. In mid-level it is there. It is there. There is a clause. And really it helped us to get the approval. The India Tower which you were telling was the first to show the design that it needs to be done. But then when we did, we didn't have any backup, right? Many other buildings have, but they have done it with different other modalities. But we had to take approval since it was a handover building.
India Tower, they granted the approval, unfortunately the project.
Yeah,
they did grant Pankaj sir. हमने बहुत काम किया था, anyway that is something. Okay, so Rupesh, Sheetal also talked about fire, short circuit fires and everything. What are your views on it? Again, bus duct versus cable, we have already covered it, but if at all you are doing cables, then what are all the precautions we should take to make sure that we don't have fire?
Correct. So if you go for the cable, in case for then the sizing of the cables has to be properly done with refer to jobs and everything. Installation of the cable with termination at the lower end, then put a spacing between the two cables, sizing of the cable trays. Other places we saw cables has been overlapped on each other because the site shaft constraint. So there are multiple reasons we can try and avoid this.
Okay. Understood. Bapat sir, challenges in high-rise buildings from many people's point of view now. We have started designing buildings with smaller shafts, in the indoor shafts, all shafts coming in FSI has to be taken care of. We need to maintain the building at a later date. What are your views on that? How are you struggling with it? We as consultants, we struggle every day.
See, equally, the pressure is on MEP, E&M engineers as well, along with the consultants, because in high-rise buildings, you have to have shafts to lay the services, to run the services. Now the challenge is beyond a certain width, the shafts are also mounted in FSI. As Sheetal has widely explained in her presentation, we will have to switch to bus risers going ahead. But more aspect, laying those cables to say 60-story building, 70-story building, you can imagine the amount of safety hazard. Taking that cable, pulling it, and then you can imagine sometimes the cable gets slipped, it falls. During erection also it's a big safety hazard. And apart from that, for ELV systems, I think we should move to FTTH straight away instead of laying those old generation cables. So that Cat 6 and all. We will have to move to FTTH solutions. Absolutely, there is no shortcut on that. And there are a couple of things I was just hearing from Anand sir, that the putting ODUs in that enclosed duct is a big challenge. You have to have a breathable ODU spaces. So a couple of ideas which we keep on generating to our architect colleagues, that why not to have a elevation with a ODU breathable space, and then you can put a lowered elevation so that it will gel with your overall building elevation. But at least make it breathable through and through instead of putting it in a duct. So that will also take care of your duct mounting in FSI. Such type of elevations are not mounted in FSI if you put an outdoor duct. These are few of the innovations where we can really apply our mind to identify how we can lay services in high-rise buildings. And per floor meter room is a new concept which we had practiced in our present way, where we have only our designer. So per floor meter room is also an area where we can look at reducing the voltage drop, sizes of cables, and of course bus duct. Yes. Because earlier the utility companies were also not in favor of putting meters on every floor. They said, that there will be a problem of meter reader and that. But now after we have smart meters wherein you can take from your mobile also the readings, I think that issue is also taken care. So per floor meter room is also one of the areas we should look. I would say beyond 20 floors we should start implementing per floor meter rooms.
There is a one check probably we need to keep in mind when we do a bus duct, since we are talking so much of bus duct, in a situation where you have a smaller apartment and a high-rise building, which is now the thing in suburb we are seeing. One should check the fault rating. Because of low impedance value of the bus duct, your fault levels are high, So when you design your DB inside the apartment, particularly when you are taking 25 ampere MCB, you should select with the right fault level. Otherwise, that could create a fire.
So yeah, short circuit level normally we go to 9K, 10K. Here we have
It's going to be a high.
16 or 20K. Sanjay sir, your views on it, and also I want you to touch base on under construction buildings. I think there is somewhere in NBC they have specified the firefighting system for under construction. I don't think we follow it. Whether you follow it as a Lodha, whether you follow any firefighting practices for under construction buildings, and your views on it.
When it all started, the evolution all started with world towers. So it was a super high-rise building, 416 meters it was supposed to. The volume of people going and up, material moving up and down was tremendous. So yes, we first implemented there. The water tank used for the curing purpose, which is a massive one, normally built early. We had a pump installed to it, duty standby pump, and it was pumping water up. Right at the mid level, somewhere there was a tank again to pump the water, curing water up. Again, it was used. That has become a sort of norm and a practice for all our buildings. Apart from that, we are having fire extinguishers and other required extinguishers in different levels. I am talking mostly of high-rise building because we 20 and plus floor I am talking about, and it becomes very mandatory because the workforce which is working for you and the branding of the company, it is all affected by the number of incidents happening. So it is taken care in the toolbox talk. It is demonstration is given in the construction management toolbox talks. It helps the people education because, like you told, you see a extinguisher, but definitely 80 to 90% people don't know how to use it. Right? Once you explain to people, then a person who might not be ready for that to take that, but when he sees actual fire, he will be able to do it. So yes. Doing it intermittently, regularly, say every 3 months, that drill is being done, training is being given, and the dry riser, like it is mentioned, we have been doing it long back, and we are till now, fingers crossed, we are quite safe in that matter.
Fire extinguisher, every year they get expired. The fire service AMC guy comes, he takes those bottles. Put a new one. So last time in my society it has got expired. I told that fire service AMC guy that जब तुम लेके जाओगे ना तो उसको यहाँ खाली करके जाओ because it is any case you are going to refill that. So at least give me a demo of expired bottles. ऐसे की ऐसे full लेके जाना था. Show it. Nobody is coming forward. Give it security cabin के सामने सब bottle को empty करो. Don't do anything, but take empty bottles from my society. These are kind of some ideas, you can implement. Otherwise, people are not aware how to, operate the fire extinguisher in case of emergency.
Actually, I would have gone for at least 2-3 hours with this discussion, but time is short. We have about 5 minutes. Anybody wants to ask any questions? Yes.
As developers, have you all given a thought to filtering water? In some countries, the water line is running next to the fire shaft or the electrical shaft in the common space of the lobby, and tappings are given to each apartment, and each tapping has a meter, so you actually know whether you pay or not. In India, whether you pay or not, can we look at this kind of thing as a philosophy? That's one of the ways where if you know how much you're consuming, you can save water through the year. Forget about paying for it. That's a different, thing altogether.
Definitely, we are not required to go through that water scarcity problem. But in our earlier project in Bangalore, Rentry Boulevard, in phase 2 we had given this water measuring solutions to every apartment level. So what you are saying in Bangalore, and the scarcity is so high, people are measuring every drop of water. They want to understand who is consuming what at what level. So in residential property also we have given in Bangalore.
Rohit, in fact, we have started doing that in Mumbai also, not only for a metering purpose, but there are 2-3 other reasons we have gone to this concept. One is when you do individual shaft plumbing and water downtake and riser, in all high-rise building you got to put PRV, right? Now how do we expect people to go to the residence bathroom and go and maintain the PRV, change the PRV? So when you get it to a core, you kind of have a maintainable space. Another reason for doing that in Bombay is, of course, every developer likes it. You remove water supply pipe from the shaft, you do a single stack, you use only one shaft for the ODU, all other shaft becomes free to developer, free of services.
So,
One of the other thing which helps is that the leakages in the pipeline are not there in all the shafts happening at some random spaces. And I would like to kind of put across over here that at the end of the day, people are so much worried about leakages of this horizontal distribution. We anyway have sprinkler lines. So when we do not have that fear factor with a sprinkler with a higher pressure rating, and here the pressure is not going any more than 4 kg, and we have that phobia of this water is going to leak onto my various areas, then why we have that kind of a mindset? So I think I would assume a best society would be to have a gas, a water and an electrical tap off switch, so that when you are leaving your apartment you isolate all the 3 things and you are home, you are out of your home for your vacations without bothering electricity or gas or water into your space.
I think you are right. Sprinkler going inside the apartment has helped a lot people to kind of accept this water pipe also going inside.
just one small example. We did a project in Rajkot. Rajkot, there is no water supply where we were doing. So you have to go down, and you have to go down about 2,000 feet to get water because the water level is very low. So you get very hard water, 1200, 1300 TDS hard water. So the only treatment is RO. Now if you look at it, if you look at your CAM charges, correct me if I'm wrong, your water charges is roughly about 10-12%. All other charges are security, elevators, electrical and all. Here, because it was RO, the water, out of the CAM charges, the water was contributing to at least about 50 to 60% of the cost. So what the developer thought was that we have to bring the water cost down. So how to do it? Came up with an idea कि चलो हर एक shaft में meter डालते हैं. So there is one company which is a super company. Now I'm using them again also. They will provide you meters on rent. So meters on rent, 100 rupees a month. Now you do that, and then Wi-Fi app based वो सब हो जाता है. But what I was coming at is that if a household was using 100 liters of water, once the water was started metered, they brought it down to 30%, 30 liters. So 70% of water usage came down. So yes, I mean everybody agrees that we should be metering more and more, and that's the way forward. Pankaj sir, you had a question? We'll wrap it up. Last question.
I think it's too late, but I want to urge both the developers here that you help us data logging the shaft temperatures where the ODUs are being installed, and we would like to run a research program through ISHRE because to me the COVID has completely changed the way we were using houses earlier, and the diversities which any electrical engineer was taking and even being permitted in the city of Mumbai has completely transformed. The air conditioning loads are a big contributor to that. And the way they have been installed, and many here we are talking to Raheja, Lodha, they are very good MEP engineers themselves, so probably you are also protecting us and ensuring that we get breathing spaces for our outdoor unit, but it is a big challenge. I have seen hundreds of installations in these cities which are very alarming because the temperatures in high-rise are going as high as 55 degrees centigrade. I have measured in some of the apartments. And at that point of temperature, the ODUs is consuming 70 to 80% more power. And if the diversities are not there, your any electrical cables or even bus duct for that matter is likely to get overstretched. And I think we as responsible engineers of this city need to do a very detailed exercise. I did try my level best from ASHRAE, but they are not interested in this project because nowhere in the world the high-rise buildings are being served with outdoor units which are unitary in nature. It is all, if you go compare with Dubai, everybody has district cooling. So this big challenge is not there at all. And I don't know how, when we will be able to educate our own developers and builders, and because the risk is always distribution of billing for air conditioning, and unless we come up with some innovative ideas of billing this with wind energy, we are trying in Ahmedabad with the government department where we are telling that the air conditioning cost is going to be free for lifetime, and that is where we will put some chillers and try to come out of such problems which are serious nature, but at least help us data logging your shaft temperatures on upper levels, and it can be a great help to the society and future generation who will probably design many more tall buildings in coming years.
Surely, sir.
Come back to you, sir. I will request multiple, and these are not going to cost much, but it will help everyone. Every MEP engineer will get benefited, and I think tomorrow's generation will be much safer, because I am afraid in the way my redevelopment is happening, 400 square feet apartments, multiple of them, which are not planned with air conditioning, and they are selling this apartment in 1 crore, 2 crore, and then those people are putting 2, 3 ACs there. I mean, we should not be seeing a serious accident, because we may lose not less than 500 to 1,000 people in such accident is my fear, and we can only wish good for the city.
Very relevant scenario you are raised, because every day the building shafts are getting hotter every decade because of this ODU.
One small question, sir, here. Has there been any study done where we have a lot of excessive STP water, specifically in residential? Because you don't really need that much of recycling wastewater. Has there been any study done what we have seen abroad, like what are called DX units for residential buildings, where you do provide cooling towers, you eliminate the, now you have got even VRFs which are got on, metering systems are very different. But what are called DX systems for apartments which are reasonably good sized, where you have got one indoor unit and we have got a compressor which is water cooled. Has there been any kind of a study done on that?
Yeah, I think we tried number of occasions, because if you see, it's little ironical. In commercial building where you don't have enough water, you look for efficiency and you look for water cooled chiller. In residential building, you have enough recycled water. You take 135, you consume 45. So 90 per person is available, and still we talk about air cool. But the issue is, we can always go with water cooled VRF unit. That probably could be a good solution. But I think difficulty, particularly in Mumbai, for a high rise, where do you locate the cooling tower? The reason is you don't have a ground space available for locating the cooling tower. The terraces in Mumbai everybody wants to use, and PV panel has already occupied chunk of the terrace, because that's mandatory in ammonia. And if you use a closed circuit cooling tower, you need a higher height at a service floor, which is not again permissible. So the issue is, where do you put the cooling tower? You need a cooling tower for a water cool service.